Welcome back. Let's continue where we left off on Myne's adventure. Don't forget to click like and subscribe.
It's so hot. It hurts. I hate this. A child's voice cried out directly into my head. Filled with pain and suffering. Well, what do you want me to do about that? I had no idea what to do, and over time the voice grew increasingly quiet. The moment I realized I couldn't hear the child's voice anymore. At the same time, I felt a hot fever and pain spread throughout my body as if I had been afflicted with influenza. I nodded and agreed with the child. This certainly is hot and it certainly does hurt. I hate it too. But the child's voice didn't reply. It was so hot. I tried moving around to find a colder spot in the bed. Maybe due to the fever, I couldn't move my body like I wanted to. But what's that noise? My throat should have been sore due to the fever, but a childish and high-pitched voice came out of my mouth. It was clearly not my own voice, and it sounded just like the child's voice that I'd heard in my head a second ago. I wanted to keep sleeping since the fever was making me feel so sluggish, but I couldn't ignore the fact that I was in an unfamiliar bed and that my voice wasn't my own, so I slowly lifted my heavy eyelids. My fever must have been enormous, as my eyes were wet and my what? For some reason, I could see the small, unhealthy-looking hand of a child stretched out in front of me. Weird. My hand should be a lot bigger than this. I have the hands of an adult, not a small malnourished child. I could move the child's hand like my own, clenching and opening it. This body that I could move at will was not my own. The sheer shock of that revelation made my mouth dry up. What's happening? Making sure to keep the tears from dipping out of my wet eyes, I moved my gaze around while keeping the dirty blanket thrown over me had a weird smell, and my whole body was itchy as if it were infested with fleas or bed bugs. Hold on, wait. Where am I? My last memory was getting crushed by an avalanche of books, and it wasn't likely I had been rescued in the nick of time. At the very least, I was sure no hospital in Japan. All signs pointed to yes. I had died, being crushed by books. That earthquake was at best a 3 or 4 on the Richter scale. It wasn't the kind of earthquake that killed people. So my death had definitely ended up on the news. Something like a college girl nearing graduation was crushed to death by books in her own home. That's so embarrassing. I died twice that day, once physically and once socially. I mean, okay, I definitely joked about it. I definitely thought that, if I was going to die, I may as well die getting crushed by books. I honestly did think it'd be better than dying a slow death on a hospital bed. But this was all wrong. I had dreamed of a happy death at the end of a life surrounded by books. I honestly hadn't expected an earthquake to happen and crush me to death so soon. This is awful. I'd just gotten hired too. Whoa. My sweet college library in this troubled age of high unemployment, I had just managed to land a job in a college library. Through guts and determination to fulfill my dream of a happy life surrounded by books. My mom, who worried more about me than anyone else, even started crying after hearing the news. That's wonderful. Your Honor, you actually found a respectable, good job. I'm so proud of you, she'd said, tears dripping out of her eyes. And days after that, I just up and my mind drifted to thoughts of how my mother must have cried after learning of my death. She, the mother I'd never meet again, would definitely be mad. I could say with confidence that with great effort, I slowly lifted my head and sat my burning hot body up before looking around the room to obtain as much information as possible, paying no heed to my hair sticking to my sweaty neck. The room had only a few dressers for storing things and 2 tables, apparently beds, each covered with filthy blankets. Sadly, there was no bookshelf in sight. I don't see any books. Maybe this is just a nightmare. A death nightmare. If a God had granted my wish and reincarnated, I stared at a spider's nest hanging off the dark, soot-stained ceiling. Soon, however, the door opened and a woman came in. Perhaps she heard me moving, or perhaps she heard me talking to myself. But, either way, she was a beautiful woman with a triangular bandana tied on her head who looked to be in her upper 20s. She had a lovely face, but she was dirty. So dirty that I would assume she was homeless. Mine. Hiya. The moment I heard the woman's incomprehensible speech, a mental dam burst in memories that were familiar, yet not my own, came rushing through. In the span of a few blinks, the accumulated years of memories belonging to the girl named Myne had crashed through my mind like a flood and beat against my brain, causing me to reflexively clasp my head in horror. Myne, are you okay? No, I'm not Myne. I wanted to protest, but I couldn't. I was overwhelmed by the indescribable sensation. The huge flood of information sent me into a panic, and everything I could see before me screamed one thing. You're not Urano anymore. You're mine. 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 the woman called out to me, worried, but to me she was just a stranger. Or she should have been, but for some reason, it felt like I knew her. It even felt like I loved her. The love felt gross and alien. It wasn't my own. I couldn't yet manage to obediently accept that the woman in front of me was my mother. As my repulsion and love ground against, "Are you okay? You look like you have a headache." I instinctively didn't want to touch my mom. She who existed in my memories yet was someone I didn't know, and so I fell back onto the stinky bed to avoid her outstretched hand. I then shut my eyes to fully shut off all visual stimulation. My head still hurts. I want to sleep. Okay. Rest well, dear. I waited for Mom to leave the bedroom and got to work trying to grasp my situation. My head was messed up from the fever, but I wouldn't be able to sleep peacefully while panicked. Like I was. I had no idea how things had ended up this way. But it was more important to think of what to do next, rather than get stuck on the past. Knowing how this happened wouldn't change the fact that I had to do something. If I didn't use Myne's memories to fully understand my surroundings, my family would quickly get, "Oh gosh, what do I do?" From the visuals of her memories, I determined a few things. 1. My family consisted of 4 people. My mom, Effa, my older sister, Tuli, and my dad, Gunther. It seemed like Dad was working as a soldier or something. The most shocking thing of all, however, was that this world was not my own. My memories of my bandana wearing Mom showed that she had light green hair, a color best described as jade. It wasn't an unnatural dyed green, either. She really had green hair. Green so realistic I wanted to pull her hair and make sure it wasn't a wig. There were apparently no mirrors in this residence, something like an apartment located on the upper floor of a tall building, so no matter how much I explored my memories, I couldn't find any details on my appearance beyond that. If I were to guess based on how good my parents and Tuli looked, I probably didn't look half bad myself. Though my appearance had no relevance to me as long as I could read books, so I wasn't that worried about it. I didn't look that amazing as Urano, after all. I could live without being cute. Really, I just want to read books. I feel like my fever would vanish if I had a book in hand. I can survive anywhere as long as I've got book. Myne, you're awake. As if to intentionally interrupt my thoughts, a young girl that looked about 7 years old stepped lightly into my arm. It was Tuli, my older sister. Her green hair, tied into a slightly misshapen braid, was so dry I could immediately tell she wasn't washing it at all. Just like Mom, I wished she would wash her face. She was also wasting her good looks. The reason I thought that was probably due to my upbringing in Japan, a country so fixated on cleanliness that other countries considered us to be obsessive. But I didn't care about that. There were more important things in the world. You don't know. They're things with letters and stuff written on them. Some have illustrations too. Myne, what are you even saying? Can't you talk properly? I'm telling you, a book. I want a picture book. What's that? I don't know what you're talking about. Apparently, words that weren't in Myne's memories ended up coming out as Japanese, so Tuli just shook her head in confusion no matter how hard I tried to explain what I wanted. Geez. Dear job, auto-translator. Why are you mad? Myne? I'm not mad. My head just hurts. Looks like my first job will be. Even when I was Urano, I worked hard with a dictionary in hand to understand foreign books. If I thought of learning this world's language as a means to read the books here, I wouldn't mind the effort at all. My love and passion for books was so great that it pushed people away from me. You're mad because you still have a fever? Tuli reached out her dirty hand, likely trying to feel how hot my forehead was. I reflexively grabbed her hand. I'm still sick, you'll catch it too. That's true. I'll be careful. Safe. By acting like I was worried about her, I could avoid things I didn't like. I managed to avoid getting touched by Tuli. I want to take a bath. My head's itchy. The moment I murmured that, Myne's memories informed me of the unfortunate truth. The best I would get was a bucket of water to dump over my head and a tattered rag to rub against myself. No, you can't call that a bath. Also, there's no toilet here. Just a chamber pot. Give me a break. Attention. Whichever God put me here, I wanted to live somewhere modern and convenient. My environment was so bad it honestly made me want to cry. When I was Iran, I missed Japan. It was filled with so many wonderful things I took for granted. Soft washcloths, comfortable beds, books, but no matter how much nostalgia I felt, I had no choice but to live in this new world. Crying wouldn't get me anywhere. I had to teach my family the value of cleanliness. As far as I could tell from my memories, Myne was a weak little girl who often had fevers and ended up bedridden for days a day. Most of her memories involved the bed. If I didn't improve my environment, I would probably be dead before long. I could imagine from the poor conditions I was put in while sick that it would be ideal to avoid needing medical attention at all costs. I need to. Please. I shook my head to get those thoughts out of my mind. No. Like I said, it's a miracle I got reincarnated at all. I need to be more positive. How lucky. I get to read books that don't even exist on Earth. Okay. I'm getting enthusiastic again. First, in order to focus on reading books without worrying, I had to take care of my body. I slowly shut my eyes so I could rest. As my consciousness faded into darkness, one thought dominated my mind. I don't care what it is. I just want to read a book.
To be continued. See you all on the next video. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.